Alright, so you'll notice I don't have my mic with me here today. That is because I cannot find the thing that connects the mic to the camera. Not exactly sure what you call that thing. Sure there's some technical name for it. But I cannot find the thing that connects the mic to the camera, so I'm going to be doing this video mic-less this time. I hope that's alright. I also hope mic-less is an actual word. First of all, I would just like to apologize because I realize I haven't been very consistent lately. I haven't uploaded a video in like 2 weeks now, and that's just because I started school recently and I've just been really busy with that, so I apologize. I have a lot of school to do, so I will not be as consistent as I have been with this channel so far. I still will try to upload a video roughly every Friday, but I am probably going to miss a week here and there oftentimes throughout the school year, so I just want to let you be aware of that. I'm starting school, I'm very busy, and it's kind of hard to find time to do this. So I apologize that it's been a while since I've uploaded a video. So thank you for your patience. I will try to be consistent with this, but it is kind of hard with all the schoolwork that I've been doing, but I do enjoy this. So today I'm going to be doing sort of 2 book reviews put into one, because I planned out both of these book reviews, and I thought that I was going to do them both as their separate individual videos, but as you well know, I was a bit busy with school and I just didn't get the time to film and edit these book reviews. I actually filmed one of them, but I just couldn't edit it in time. So today I'm going to be doing sort of 2 book reviews put in one. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 2 classics that I think everyone should read, and these are easy classics that are not terribly long. These are easy to read classics that are fairly short. Both of them are only 200 pages. So, the first book that I think everyone should read, again, I read both these books recently. The first one that everyone in the world should read is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Now, of course, I'm sure everyone watching this has heard of this book. I'm sure everyone on planet Earth has heard of this book. And you probably know a lot about this book without having read it. A scientist named Victor Frankenstein tries to figure out the secrets of life, so to say, and he takes bits and pieces from corpses and puts them together to create this 8-foot-tall being whom he hopes will worship him as a god. But when he actually creates this being, which is now known as Frankenstein's monster, the monster is horrendous and evil and wicked, and Frankenstein immediately realizes his mistake and dedicates the rest of his life to destroying this monster. And how this book came about is, it was in the year 1816, I believe, or somewhere around that period, where Mary Shelley, the author of this book, went on a vacation to Switzerland with her family and friends, I believe, or it might have been just family or just friends, I don't know all the details. But anyway, they thought that since they had nothing else to do, they would entertain themselves by each writing a ghost story. So all of Mary Shelley's friends and families started writing their own ghost stories and sharing them with the rest of them just for their private amusement. And Mary Shelley was trying to write a ghost story, but she could not think of any idea to possibly write this ghost story. But it was a dark and stormy night. She had a dream of a man who was leaning over his creation of an 8-foot-tall monster. And this man, Frankenstein, as he was later called, was so excited that he had finally created life, so to speak. But then he ran away, horrified at his creation, and she had a sudden vision. Mary Shelley had a sudden vision of, like, the monster drawing open the curtains of Frankenstein's bed and staring down at him with malice and malignity. And this is how Mary Shelley came to write Frankenstein. This book has beautiful prose, and it communicates the feelings of the characters to the reader very well. This book has easily just become one of my most favorite books that I have ever read. I totally understand why it's such a classic. And I had sort of all these like preconceived notions in my head based just on what I've heard about Frankenstein, and this book was way different than I expected in a really good way. It is sort of a warning on trying to create life of your own, or like just trying to go against the laws of science that God has created. That God has created beings in perfect harmony, and we shouldn't try to disrupt that or twist that like what Frankenstein tried to do. I love how Frankenstein at first is very selfish, you know, he wants to create a being of his own who will worship him as its god and creator, basically. But he realizes his mistake, and I just feel so bad for Frankenstein and all that he has to go through. He dedicates his entire life to mending his mistakes and trying to destroy this monster through all the pains. He goes hungry, he has to live for days upon days and years in the wilderness, pursuing this monster far away from all his family. The one reason why I could see someone disliking this book is that it could be viewed as sort of like pessimistic. Like, not a lot of positive things happen. Basically, from the beginning of this book, everything is fine, and then it all goes downhill from there. So there isn't really anything happy, like, at all that happens in this book, except for one sort of fleeting moment of joy, maybe 3/4 in, but that joy is quickly destroyed, trust me. So, yeah, not a lot of happy things happen in this book, but it is still such a great book that stirred in me so many emotions of just pain, sorrow, joy, hope, melancholy, heartbreak, sadness, and relief. I feel very much connected to all the characters, especially our main character, Victor Frankenstein. I just feel so bad for him and all that he has to go through, but I just love his character journey, how he starts out like this very, very selfish person who's trying to set himself up as a god, basically. And then later on, he realizes his mistakes and he mends them, and he promises himself that he will go through whatever he needs to in order to achieve his mission, which is destroying this monster which he, in his folly, attempted to create. It's also really interesting how you also get to see the story from the monster's perspective, and at first you kind of feel bad for the monster, because he's like, oh, I have no other beings like my own, he just wants to communicate with people, but he's horrendous, so nobody likes him. And you're like, is this monster really bad? Is he really evil? But then by the time you reach the end of the monster's perspective, you're like, okay, this creature is for sure evil. It's such a creative story with excellent writing and really just probes deep thinking. There was a lot of philosophy in this book, I noticed, but not like overwhelming philosophy. This book isn't hard to understand, and again, it's not terribly long. It's only 200 pages, this edition that I have here. So it's not a very long classic, and I think everyone should read it. This is one of the greatest books I have ever read, by far. And there are a lot of my book reviews where I'm like, this is such a great book, everyone should read it, it's absolutely fantastic. And I mean it. I mean it with all of my book reviews. But with this one, I mean this from the very depths of my heart, that this is one of the greatest books I've ever read. And seriously, everyone needs to read this book. I can totally understand why it's on that list of like 100 books that everyone should read before they die. I love Frankenstein's determination and how he plods on through every pain and sorrow and trial that awaits him on the way, as he vows that he will destroy the evil being that he created. This book was stunning, heart-wrenching, and absolutely brilliant, and I think everyone should read it. If you've been around my channel for a while, or if you know me personally, you know that my favorite author is J.R.R. Tolkien. And I'm gonna have to say, and this just shows how much I love this book, I'm gonna have to say, this book was as good as The Hobbit. And I can't believe I just said that, because I never thought I would read another book that was as good as Tolkien. I still think maybe The Lord of the Rings is better than this book, and, you know, the Silmarillion and the Children of Húrin are probably just as good as this book. Well, better than this book, maybe even just as good. But this just shows you how much I love this book. That I think this book is almost as good, if not as good, as J.R.R. Tolkien's books. And I'm giving it 10.5 out of 10. Everyone should read this book. One of the greatest books I've ever read in my entire life, and it's for sure one that I will reread many, many times over. And even after I finished this book, it was like, maybe like 11:30 at night or something, and I just lay in bed thinking about it, and this just probed such deep thinking in me. This book is philosophical, but not overwhelmingly so. It's not hard to understand. It's a very, very enjoyable read, a very heart-wrenching one. If you read this, prepare to have your heart broken, because not a lot of joyful things happen in it. But still, such a great book that everyone should read, and I'm giving it 10.5 out of 10. And then the next book that I think everyone should read, again, this is a book that I just finished reading. Well, rereading, technically. I did read it once, like a few years back. This is just my reread of it. It is The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. This edition that I have here, unfortunately, is missing its dust jacket. This is a very old edition. We've had this for many, many years. I think it used to belong to a library. Yeah, this book used to belong, this edition that we have here used to belong to a library. Must be pretty old too, because it just says like published 1961. No like copyright renewed or anything like that. So yeah, this must be a pretty old edition. I'm going to read you the first page here quick because I think it does a really good job of giving you an introduction to the character. And again, I'm not going to go like too in-depth. This isn't going like super in-depth into the character or anything. I'm not going to be spoiling anything for you. There was once a boy named Milo who didn't know what to do with himself. Not just sometimes, but always. When he was in school, he longed to be out, and when he was out, he longed to be in. On the way, he thought about coming home, and coming home, he thought about going. Wherever he was, he wished he were somewhere else, and when he got there, he wondered why he'd bothered at all. Nothing really interested him, least of all the things that should have. It seems to me that almost everything is a waste of time, he remarked one day as he walked dejectedly home from school. I can't see the point in learning to solve useless problems, or subtracting turnips from turnips, or knowing where Ethiopia is, or how to spell February. And since no one bothered to explain otherwise, he regarded the process of seeking knowledge as the greatest waste of time at all. So basically we have this boy called Milo, who thinks that everything is a waste of time. He's very bored, doesn't know what to do with himself, and one day a mysterious package arrives in his room. This package turns out to be a toll booth, and when he goes into it, he travels to a distant world. Here's a map here. The map very much reminds me of the Pilgrim's Progress, of just like the names of everything. There's the Mountains of Ignorance, the Valley of Sound, the Forest of Sight, the Doldrums, Foothills of Confusion, Dictionopolis, and Digitopolis. So basically, Milo goes to this faraway land, and he learns not to waste time, basically, is what Norton Juster was trying to say in this book. This book is enjoyable, very fun, and very whimsical. It is a little bit similar to Alice in Wonderland in like the tone and the style and I guess the overall plot of the story. I loved this book so much. It was so great the first time I read it, but when I read it the second time, I loved it even more. Of course, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I loved it. It is not a hard book to read at all. I think it's a book that both children and adults can enjoy. And it's really fascinating how a lot of the things that Norton Juster says in this book are so applicable to nowadays. Like, this book was published in 1961, so that was quite a while ago. And there's this one city in this world that Milo goes to when he travels in the toll booth. There's this one city there where everyone in that city found out that if they looked down at their feet while they walked, then they would get to places much quicker. But then they weren't looking up at everything around them, and so over time, the city around them just started to fade, until there was nothing of the city left at all, but the people of the city didn't even care. They just kept on walking, looking down at their feet. And it just kind of reminded me of like everyone I see who's just walking down the street staring avidly at their phones like it's the only real thing in the world. And like, of course, this was 1961, so way before mobile phones were invented, but it's just incredible how applicable it is to this modern world. And I was just thinking about how the whole wasting time sort of theme of this book is very, very applicable, because nowadays people probably waste a lot more time than they did back then. Of course, everyone wastes time at some point in their lives. We're wasting time all the time, so to speak. But I feel like ever since the invention of like mobile phones and TV shows and video games and movies and all that, people have just been wasting a lot of time. Not that, like, movies and phones are a waste of time, like, a lot of them are useful for a lot of things, but, like, we don't need to be watching screens for 24 hours a day, or whatever. And yeah, it's just amazing how applicable this book is to this modern age. A whimsical, fun read, one that can be enjoyed by both adults and children, and I highly recommend it to anyone out there. Again, 10 out of 10. Probably one of the greatest books I've ever read. Not the greatest book I've ever read, but for sure, one of the greatest books I've ever read. It's enjoyable, fun, and very, very applicable to many things in this modern age. So, that was my sort of double book review for Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. Again, I apologize that I haven't uploaded in a while. I've been very busy with school. I will probably miss a lot of weeks here and there throughout the school year, so just want to warn you about that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks for your patience with me getting it out, and for now, farewell.